Good morning, slash noon. It's 12:07, the day after Boxing Day, and I've just been in bed. And I just woke up. I was like, I gotta get a move on for the next few weeks because it's break, and I have to get a move on many different things. I have to. Last night I started getting my like studying plan together because I have finals. My first two finals are due like in a few weeks, like 3 weeks or so. And I've been really be kind of behind the semester because of this project. And again, it's like it was worth it for me. So I'm trying not to complain or like not to be down on myself, but I am quite a bit behind and I do need to do like a lot of learning and stuff. So basically, today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be mostly focused on finals, but I am going to work on this whole entire thing for like a bit as well. And just over the next few days, that's just going to be like my back and forth because I want to just lighten the load of this for myself as much as I can. So we're having breakfast in bed. I have chocolate cereal and I have my tea. My hair looks crazy because I oiled it yesterday. No, the day before yesterday. Slept with it in with hair oil in so that I could, have amazing hair. And then at night I went to wash my hair and I realized I didn't have shampoo. So at some point we do have to leave and get shampoo because I started washing my hair and everything was conditioner. I have like this triple whammy right now, which is that my family just left, so I've been sitting here like processing everything that's been going on the last few weeks. I'm by my like all by myself again, so it's kind of that hermit mode energy where I'm just sort of like all my thoughts are just and I'm doing like self-reflection and stuff and the year some self-reflecting and this project has been like I don't know, it's like now that it's starting to kind of do well, I think that I've been having more of an emotional process with it too, where it's like, oh, not only is it sitting am I sitting with like, for example, emotional elements of like, well, I put so much stake in what certain individuals judged about my trauma in a certain justice context, but what do they know? Nothing. They're not even trauma informed and they don't know me and they don't know anything about this. So why am I sitting here even stressed about their opinion when they are literally just paid employees that take a module and then just judge people's trauma all day? And they do a million cases a day. So what does that have to do with me? Nothing, first of all. Second of all, just like noticing how dissociated my body has been and trying to sort of sift through it a little bit and just be aware and give myself space to rest and like not do the things that make it worse, like stress and burnout and all this stuff. Third of all, I started this whole entire journey talking about how I like in my first video in this playlist, I talked about how I hadn't wrapped my head yet around the term survivor. Partly because I still felt so gaslit in my head about like, about recovered memory and stuff and like what if this is all fake? And I found the actual freaking reason for this, I think, if I continue research later on into my career and continue to, you know what I mean, do stuff about reconsolidation and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, well, if my experience being a novice was good enough to get me to something useful and usable, then I couldn't have been too far off. And that's been a healing journey. And also, I found an old notebook that had like all of my. I'm gonna put the little post below. Like I link it in my bio if you guys want to see. But I found an old journal from when I first started recovering memories that I didn't even remember. Like I had no memory of it. I was like, who? I was like, what is this journal? Is this like one of my high school journals? Why do I have this? And it was turned out to be a journal I had written then that I didn't even remember. And it was just so miserable and painful and all this stuff inside. I didn't read that much. I read like 2 pages because I was like, I'm not dealing with that today. But it actually made me feel proud and I was like it made me see how far I'd come with this process and I felt really proud of myself. And then I was like, oh, I really feel like I finally can see and understand myself as a survivor to see how far I've come with this and how painful it was for me. I think sometimes you forget when you're better and it's like, oh wow, I was in so much pain and I'm here and I'm okay and I turned this into something beautiful and stuff for me and that's like the embodiments of survival right there. So I felt like, okay, I felt really good about that term and everything. And I've just been sitting with a lot of different emotional things. Just even stuff from like, thinking about I think I've been so go 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 I didn't think about college that much and now I'm sitting here like, oh, there's people I'll never see again because we just fell off and there's certain people I actually miss that other people I fell off with couldn't give less of a The villain arc individuals, I couldn't care less. But certain people I'll never see again, and that makes me sad because they were part of my life and I miss them. And yeah. Anyways, yeah, I've just been feeling kind of successful. I think my feeling of success has really grown. And yeah, I've just been feeling kind of successful and like a winner and just really taking stock of my experiences. And also, oh, it's also my time of month. So I just woke up and I was like, what? And just, yeah, which is a good thing. I feel like that's always like kind of the perk of your period. I've also just been reflecting on how much I've changed and yeah, like how the fact that I'm here. I don't know, I used to be so different. I feel like I changed a lot as a person in a lot of ways that make me feel good about myself, but sometimes I miss certain elements of myself and like I'm like where did that go? Like that just fell off somewhere down the line and I kind of miss like the type of music I would listen to and just like the aura of my life felt so different because I was in college and I was around people all the time and I was in New York and I was listening to like a bunch of music and my life had this very like it just had a very different feeling to it. You know, I was younger and now I'm here and I'm like, oh, it's so quiet and focused and like I don't listen to music that much because I'm so I get overstimulated easier than I used to and also I don't know, I just feel like it's really been me right now and yeah, I have people I'm trying to get closer to right now, which makes me happy. Like I got two different invites for New Year's Eve, and I was like, my social life, it's coming back. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I've just changed a lot and stuff, and I've just been sitting here like reflecting on that and just being like, whoa, I don't know. I miss certain things about myself, and also you kind of just have to let yourself develop organically and just see who you are coming out of this. And I don't know. It's like you can't control yourself with the heavy hand to that degree sometimes, where it's like I wish I could control the entire aura and vibe of life, but sometimes you have to just let life change and be what it is at the moment. So basically what we're going to do today is I'm just going to be in bed all day and we're just going to work on my stuff and I'm going to watch movies and stuff if I can. I have a lot. We're going to go through my actual list for class of things that I should do. I started using Monday, not an ad, because I literally just started using it like last week. I was a big Notion person all through college. I love my Notion. I still love my Notion, but I don't know, I just haven't been using it as much. And I think that I've been getting a bit I think I just needed something more focused for right now because I'm really busy and stuff and I'm really kind of like, you know, there's just a lot of big girl responsibility things to do and I don't feel like setting up my Notion that much and stuff. So I just switched to Monday for now, but obviously I still have my Notion and I love it, but I just haven't used it in like quite a while. I'm on some kind of trial that I didn't know I was on. So I'm really hoping that it doesn't somehow like really mess up everything that I'm doing or I'm going to be really sad because I would pay for it, but we just don't have that kind of let's pay for Monday money right now. So let's see how this goes. So this is my master's page here. Like we have everything that I need to do. These are all my exams. Got biological psychology soon. Stats, final project, 19th. This is the one that makes me nervous because I have to learn everything because I've just been this one wasn't even my fault. This was my computer's fault because it was too old to run R. So I had to literally wait to get another computer to actually be able to run the libraries past like week 4. So I have like 6 weeks of R to catch up on. That's gonna be really, really fun. I have this paper February 9th. This paper isn't due till March 16th. So we're chilling on this one. I mean, obviously I don't want to wait for it, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. We're going to focus. This is my like philosophy, my productivity philosophy as someone who's been intensely burnt out, stressed, and also insanely busy for like years, like literal years. It's like it never like it's just starting to ease up essentially. My thing is like minimize friction where it's like I just keep focusing on like whittling down, like create less friction in your life. My project was a big bit of emotional friction. That's why I started it and did it because I was like it's going to be just on my in my mind and all this stuff until I just get it over with and it's been good. It actually really has helped me to just be like okay, this big ginormous emotional task that I had in the back of my head, it's like part of the way through that really has aided my life and made me feel better. Like I'm not overthinking as much and I can relax. So let's think like I might make a little list. I'm not expecting myself this year to get like, you know, best grade in the class. I haven't been getting the best grade in the class at all. I've been getting passing. I got only one grade so far, it was pass. I'm happy with pass this year because I learned to not care so much about grades. I think actually having gone through like a really traumatic thing at a high pressure school, I obviously went in being like, I want to be the best student ever and get the best grades. And it really changed my perspective because I was just like, this does not matter to the degree that I felt like it mattered. I think that it helped me to shift into valuing some things that were more spiritual, and had more personal significance versus valuing whether people thought I wrote some silly little essay, okay? And, most of the, I mean, obviously it's important to know that you are doing things well and to know that you have the skill set. But at the same time, I was like, I barely remember half of the stuff I learned in my class. The thing, like, what's important is that you learn to learn, and that's what school is there to teach you. But I don't remember, like, obviously, I'm gonna make up a class that I could have taken, like, the anthropology of bookbinding in Latin America, whatever. I don't remember the content. I'm sorry. I took about a million classes like that, and they were amazing, and I loved them, and I took a lot from them, obviously. I learned a lot, like, I took a lot of information from the classes that I learned, but it's like, I don't remember the minute details, and whether I can philosophize on the bookbinding of Latin America in the 1800s, well, obviously has had zero impact on my current life, so I'm just not going to sit here and worry about grades. I'm going to worry about the thing that's like kind of importance and of value to me and has long-term impact. So if I don't get like, the best grades in the class right now, I feel like that used to be an important identity to me, and it's not an important identity to me anymore. So I'm just happy to do well on the thing that I care about. And if I pass the other classes, I'm like, I'm chilling. I don't care. So to minimize, so I made this massive list of everything. This class I actually care about, and I'm sad that I didn't get to go to it more because it was neuroscience, but it'll be fun to do learning on that. The other thing I've been trying to think about as I go into final season is I get I've been feeling really ashamed and stressed out that I wasn't as focused in my classes this semester. First of all, I think actually sitting with it over break, I felt more at peace with that decision, and I felt like that was a good decision for me, and I don't regret it. But I did feel the sense of shame of like, you start getting in your head like, oh, everybody hates me, like, oh my God, I didn't go to class, like, oh, whatever. It's like, okay. I think because of that, I am like a little bit I felt a bit of a freeze state about jumping into my work where now there's like this big shame thing around it and I don't want to do it because ADHD and all that stuff. But I was like, you know what? Class, I don't have to care what a single person thinks. Who cares? School is for having fun. I love to learn and I love all of the things that I'm learning and I just am going to enjoy learning. And I feel like actually going through my project, I just enjoyed learning the whole way through and I was able to accomplish so much with no validation, no grade, no nothing over a long period of time. And I always jumped into it. And there was never that feeling of shame and anxiety around it, which I think is the issue with school, first of all. But I was like, I actually love this stuff. So if I don't care what anybody else thinks, I'm going to have the time of my life learning art, like actually genuinely, because I love to learn. I'm going to have the time of my life, like learning more about neuroscience because I wanted to do that anyway. So I feel like I'm just trying to center like, okay, I actually do enjoy this stuff and like whether I get a good grade or not, okay, what about it? I don't care. So I'm just gonna have fun. And yeah, that actually made me start working on my stuff. Like just have fun, just enjoy it. Like you're on break and this is what you'd want to do with your time anyways, because I'm crazy and I just like to learn stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna like have fun learning everything and just reading about neuroscience and stuff. And I will say, obviously, I think that this stuff sticks in my head pretty well. Like, I mean, I don't want to assume I'm gonna get a good grade because I'll probably get a mid grade if we're being honest. There's a lot of information, but I feel like I have a good, like, I don't know, my brain just kind of works right when it comes to neuroscience stuff I see because I don't know, I just enjoy it. I think it's more about enjoyment than anything. So I'm hoping that I'll just enjoy my way through it so much that it'll help my memory. I think that's how it works for me. It's like, oh, I feel happy and engaged, so it's easier to remember versus like, oh, I'm forcing myself to learn random stuff. I hope. Anyways, how are we gonna minimize friction? What are the big things? This is what I've been trying to embody this philosophy now that I'm home and just seeing like in my own home, like, okay, what's stopping me from like this environment from being enjoyable? What's actually causing that high stress feeling for me and stuff? I would say that if I need to like download those libraries onto R on my actual computer because without that I can't do anything, and I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, nothing is done. Download the libraries on R. And then it's there, and then I can just piddle around with it if I want to. Another thing causing friction for me right now, this is for my actual project. I want to move the text that I have into my draft. And I have like a lot of things that I read. I have a lot of things everywhere. Like I also just have text floating around, floating in my iPad, in my computer, in my everywhere that I've read that I just want to get them a little bit more together. And I feel like that will help me because I'll see kind of what's missing and what do I need. The big friction item is synaptic tagging. I need to understand it more. And is that the right approach? I think it is, but is that the right approach for my project? Read. And then also, I think if I put it into my lit review, it will actually help me because I will summarize it. And then that's also less friction. Like, when you read a scientific article of some kind and it just has that piece where it's like, it just has like a few sentences about it and it kind of gives you an overview of it. I feel like that will help me. What I'm focused on right now in my biological psychology finals, like we're gonna say that these are the things that I really would like to do before the end of the year. I definitely need to get more of a move on in my stats class, but definitely these are all like by the end of this year, I should get these all done. Oh my God, the end of the year is like 4 days away. And I do need to make another meeting with my advisor, but I'm gonna wait for that because I already emailed him before and we just didn't get that settled and then we'll just wait. I have a few people I need to reach out to, but it's been the holidays and like I just have to wait. Like I emailed somebody on the 23rd, but obviously you can't expect people to respond back during Christmas, so I kind of have to wait to see like what's the deal on Monday and then do I need to reach out to more people, whatever, you get me. So it's kind of easier on my end to let people suggest other people because I feel like they have a more they know everybody in their departments and stuff. So they give me really, really, really like specific suggestions of people. Obviously, I'm gonna search for people, but I feel like sometimes I miss the mark a little bit because I reach out to people where it's like it's almost there, but it's not quite. Whereas the actual professors know, like, oh, my colleague does this exact thing, and so then it just makes it better. But I could get if I don't get anything back from this person that I have a lead on, like I'm gonna see like I guess I'll try to reach out to more people in adjacent fields to him and maybe don't know somebody. The amnesia and memory systems, I'm like, that's the one theme of my entire class. I'm like, I got this. Ask me any question, I got this. Because I went into class that day and I was like, oh, of all the themes, I actually know this one. We were talking about place cells, we were talking about the entorhinal cortex, like everything. I was like, I got this one. The other ones, not so much. Hopefully, one day people will be learning my thing in class. But like, yeah, so actually, dissociative amnesia happens because of this and this and that. Let's see. Hopefully, one day. So yeah, this is my list. The point of minimizing friction is by the time I get to the end of this, I should feel relief. Like, okay, we're in a new stage. I'm always focused in my head on getting into a new stage and having a new relationship to whatever I'm working on, where I'm like, what can I do right now? This is kind of, I've been mentioning the one thing recently because I actually feel like I kind of forgot that book. And I was like, I think it actually genuinely deeply impacted the way that I moved through my productivity. And so that's why I've been mentioning it recently because I remembered it. Always focus on like what thing on my to-do list is gonna make me feel like I got to the next stage or like I'm in the next piece of like whatever I'm doing, versus just having these really stagnant sort of task lists. I'm always like, okay, let me move to the new stage. Where even when I was a research assistant, I actually think I mentioned this, instead of doing like we had to like code a bunch of stuff, instead of doing like participant one, participant two, participant three, I coded all of them per by section. So then I was like, okay, I'm done with like section one. Now there's no more section two. I know that seems insane, but it did keep me really motivated because my ADHD, I'm like, I can't do like that little like one, two, three, four, five. And it's like you're always in the same stage just repetitively. It really does not work for me. You know what I mean? We're just doing the same thing over and over again. So I try to clear my tasks out in like stages of like, okay, now you're in stage two, now you're in stage three. Like, and I like to feel like I have my relationship to my task is shifting all the time. So that's how I basically plan my stuff. And it does work for me. I mean, I keep getting kind of down on myself because I haven't been perfect at school. At the same time, like, okay, I have to say that I have been pretty productive this year in terms of other things. And I have gotten through a lot and everything. So not bad on me. So Anyways, okay, I think that's everything for now. That's basically what we're gonna be up to today. I think if I come back today, it'll either be to entertain myself or to talk about my project. Like maybe I'll start moving those texts over and I'll have things to say about that. So yeah. I'm currently going a little bit insane, just a little bit insane, because I'm trying to look for a second supervisor and they need to be within my department. I already got somebody who's not in my department. I need somebody in my department. And the person I was suggested from someone in my department is not in my department. So now I'm waiting on them to respond, but they're not even in my department. So I went to look at who is in my department. I already reached out to two of them, the two people who work at PTSD. I have henna on my hands. And they already said no. They already have too many master students they took on. And then we have somebody else who would be freaking perfect for my project. They're literally studying the same thing as me. And I'm getting mad because they already said no too, because they're too busy. And now I'm just sitting here like, what do I do? What on earth could I possibly freaking do? Do I don't want to reach back out to this person because that's kind of awkward. Like, they already said no, but I'm just looking at it like, bro, you're doing the same thing as me. It could not be more perfect, but it's just like, well, what can a girl do? What can you do? I don't know. It sucks to be a freaking master student with this stupid project. Because who wants to work with you? Everyone's already got too many master students. Okay, dump them and work with me. Just kidding. Why? Why? I don't know what to do. It was such a bad run. I also even asked ChatGPT, I'm like, because I asked them, like, is this person in the the department I need them to be in? Like, and they said no for this first person. So I was like, who is in my department that would be relevant? Because I guess I'm not that great at choosing. And they're giving me the list, and they're like, I was like, asked already, said no. Asked already, said no. There was a lot of other people who were just pretty much irrelevant, TBH. They weren't really that relevant. There's a shockingly small amount of people at my university working on trauma. I'm like, but trauma, who? I'm in a massive psychology department. Why does it seem like nobody's working on trauma? Why? Like, not that many people. At least not in psychology related, not in the psychology like form. And I'm really confused on that. Like, where is everybody? Because trauma's like, isn't that like one of the biggest facets? I don't know. I'm just confused. There's a whole, oh my gosh. This person's literally, I'm sorry, but they already said no. And I'm like, they're literally working on memory fragmentation, apparently. And I'm like, and literally all the same brain parts I'm working on. I'm really pissed off. I don't know what to do. Not pissed off at the person, obviously, pissed off at life. And there's another person who I was like, oh man, this is actually really tragic. The ChatGPT said their name and they had passed in January of this year. Obviously, I don't think this person would have worked with me anyways. I just looked them up and they were pretty big, but I was like, everybody who's where are all the people that I could work with? Do I beg people? I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna reach back out to the same psychology person that said they were too busy and it wasn't fully within their realm. This is a really frustrating thing, is that I'm really in this awkward spot between psychology and neuroscience and like all this other stuff where it's like it's not fully in anybody's realm, you know? So I just need somebody to read it. I don't know. And I'm getting really irritated. I'm just like, ugh. But like this project needs to be done because I don't know, like I did it. I don't know, like it's just here, so it needs to get done. And now it's like we're too far deep, like we're too in this. I have a supervisor, like this can't flop now. I need somebody. This form is due on the 12th of January. I'm just scared. I'm really thinking about begging some people. I don't know, not begging obviously, but like, are you sure you don't want to work with me? Or like, you really don't need to do that much. and etc. Because I know I'm a master's student, but I'm like, I already, most of what an actual supervisor's job would encompass, a lot of it is done. Like supervisors are supposed to give you like initial text. I'm like, I already have read over 70 texts. I'm already super far into a project. Like it's not that far. I just need somebody, I just need people to read it and like advise me on this or that. It'll probably be a bigger task than I think, like if we're being honest, but at least on the psychology end, like at least on the psychology end, like it's really like from a psychology point of view, whoever's my supervisor, like this is what I want to blast out into the world, bro. Like whoever my psychology supervisor is, like you literally just need to read it. You just need to read it. I don't need you to give me initial documents. I don't need you to look over if my method is right. I don't need you to do anything. I just need you to read the freaking paper. And I'm just sitting here like everybody's too busy and all this stuff. And I'm like, I promise you, all you need to do is read it. I don't need too much more. I mean, it would be nice, but it's not like I'm sitting here like you need to massively collaborate. Like I understand that it's not going to be perfect and stuff, and I'm a master student. I'm not expecting it to be the best thing in the world, but I just want it done. And I'm like, I just need somebody to read it. So I did reach back out to the psychology person. Not yet. I scheduled an email to be like, thank you so much. That wasn't the person. I need somebody in this department. Do you know anybody who also works with trauma? There's shockingly few people. I don't know. I'm just like sitting here like this. I thought this would be the easier part. I thought it would be really hard to find someone who does computational modeling to agree to work with me at all. Now here I am with someone who actually did agree to work with me, and it's the psychology part that's tripping me up. Like I thought that would be the easy one. I don't know, either I'll have to get an exception and see if I can get somebody in psychiatry to work with me. I don't know. These are all the options. I either need somebody to like change their mind and work with me, or I need my department to like somebody in my department to approve me working with someone in psychiatry. I don't know which of those two will work out, but one of them has to work out because if not, what are we doing here? So yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed. I want to cry. I can't wait till I'm actually like in a research position, like more like older, like 30s or whatever. And then I got like, I got a PhD, I got pull, like I know people and people will work with me. That's the dream one day. But right now, who like I'm basically a beggar. I'm basically a beggar asking for scraps because I'm a lowly master student and nobody cares yet. One of my biggest downfalls, downside, I don't know, like one of the things I need to work on the most is I hate bothering people and I hate being pushy and asking for a bunch of stuff. I was that one person in school that never went to office hours. Like I'm very self-contained too. Like I don't like having to ask people a bunch of stuff and like, like I like to do my own work. I'm very individual worker or independent worker. I don't, it's not that I don't like it. I prefer it, but I feel like research is very collaborative, but I know people, again, it's just like I don't want to keep bothering people. I know someone from UCL who they worked in neuroscience. I feel like I've already bothered them too much. I'm just thinking through all my things like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I could ask for suggestions from who. Maybe I could even reach out to my. See, this is my thing. I'm so in my head. I'm like, I could reach out to like the head of my program and ask them, but then I feel like stupid because I'm like, I don't know, like I just get in my head and that's my worst trait and I'm trying to work on it so bad where I'm like, I need to not get in my head because like you actively get in your own way sometimes when you aren't willing to ask people questions and aren't willing to ask people for support and all this stuff. And it's like it's my worst trait. I'm so bad at it. But this project is really teaching me like you gotta just throw yourself out there and just really ask people for things because you never know. In my head, I'm always like, I'm groveling. I'm groveling. Like, I don't know. Like I feel so lowly about my asks. Like, I'm sorry for wasting your time. But it's like I need to be better at it because you never know. You know what? Maybe my project could be good for somebody else. Maybe somebody else, like, I gotta have the ego. I gotta have the ego of somebody who actually is good at what they're doing. Maybe somebody else would actually like to have this paper on their publications list. You never know. maybe I could get an interesting conversation out of it, you know? Maybe people would appreciate my presence. Why is it always me imposing, you know? Actually, it kind of is because again, it's like I'm a lowly master student asking people with busy jobs to do things for me, but it's like, you know, I just gotta throw myself out there more and just be like, maybe I'm doing people, maybe I'm doing people a favor. You never know. That could never be. But I should have that mentality and that confidence. You know how they say embody the confidence of a white man? I need to start doing that more where it's like, yeah, actually you're gonna like this. Like this is amazing. And not like this is the worst thing ever, but please work with me. Please, please, because I really need to put a supervisor on my supervisor form. I've actually been going insane. This is the most. The stressful thing about this is that I feel like I have the answer, and I'm like, bro, there's so many. Okay, for good reasons, there's so many freaking like blocks you have to go through to actually get something to the point that it needs to get to. And usually I feel like people are not driven so much by personal inspiration or personal motivation. So it's like, well, it's kind of like this the process of doing science, but for me it was obviously very personal. So I'm just irritated because I'm like I literally have the answer and it's like I want to just tell somebody, you know what I mean? It's like I want to just tell you, but it's like you can't. It doesn't work like that. And I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like I'm watching right now. I went back to YouTube and I started watching this video of. I've been watching this YouTuber here and there who she was really into bikes and stuff, like motorbikes, and she got into a really bad motorcycle accident and got traumatic brain injury, and she's now like it's been really impairing her and she's been going back to like get physical therapy and all this stuff and speech therapy. And she was talking about her accident and she was talking about how it took her a while to remember. She said her short-term memory was really impacted by the traumatic brain injury, and she said that it took her a long time to actually remember the bikes because she was like her brain like because the reason she got in the accident was that she was on a bike and all this stuff, and she just took her a long time to like actually because her brain kind of wanted to block out the bikes. It took her a long time to remember that she had a bike, that other people had bikes. And I was like, I know why that is, and I need to publish it. And it's like it just follows me. I'm like, I just have it. I have the answer. Come on, people. Say yes to be my freaking supervisor. And it just bothers me so bad. It just sucks to have the answer to something where it's like, okay, but it's like it sucks to be like young. It's like I wish I had 30 years of experience. I feel like I do sometimes, but I don't at all. Yeah. But we're gonna get my stuff open now, and I'm just gonna have it ready for in the morning, I think. I feel like the people that end up being really impacted by this whole thing, or the people most impacted, the people that got the most flack for it within like this kind of little gap was people who dealt with sexual abuse as children, which is so annoying. I feel like those are the main people, victims of sexual violence that got impacted by this. But it's like, okay, other people also deal with dissociative amnesia, like this girl, she got in a bike accident. Okay, so it's like not everybody's that case, and yeah. One day I swear I'll write like a full book on the whole recovered memory thing. I think it'd be so good. Because I also, my background was obviously comparative literature, and I just like to write that kind of stuff. I just feel like it would make a really interesting deep dive. The whole entire, like, I've read so much, the whole entire story from beginning to end, from Freud to the fantasy model to all those people that, like, the development of dissociative, like, of, the hypnosis, like, all this, it's so deep. There's so much to it. It's pretty crazy. And just going into all of that would be so interesting. There's so many different things. Like, there's even let me show you because it actually is very complex, the whole entire situation. I'm trying to remember. I could pull up my thesis, my thesis from undergrad, but I don't know if I want to do all that. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, this is so interesting. Okay, so dissociative identity disorder is the thing that people really, really are like wishy-washy on. I do believe in dissociative identity disorder. I already have a theory on why I think dissociative identity disorder happens based on this whole pattern separation thing. I think it's a pattern separation issue. That's my theory. I have multiple theories about dissociative identity disorder, But so I do believe that in that dissociative identity disorder is real, but I do think that it's complex the way that people have approached it, because I think we're also developing our understanding of psychology and everything. This is so interesting. So Sybil, this was a really early story of dissociative identity disorder. And it was super popularized. It became a book and even a movie. And then later on, it turned out that this woman, Sybil, actually had invented the personalities in therapy. But this is a thing, is that people put too, oh, actually, you know, I don't think that they do. I think it goes both ways, that there's an emphasis on both things where it's both the fault of the, not the fault, but it's really tied to the relationship between the therapist and the client as well, because the therapist was really in the wrong here, actually, because let me see, the NPR article was actually the more interesting, like the easier one. I didn't read the CBC one yet. The whole thing is fascinating. The entire, if I hadn't dealt with it myself, I can understand why people would kind of like be here and there about it, but I was like, I dealt with it myself, and too many people are telling me that they dealt with this in reality, like for me to not believe it. So I think that gave me like the go ahead to work on this. But it's fascinating. So basically, so Sybil, the reason that also, this was another thing, is that actually another reason that people were saying that it was, they thought that these disorders were about social suggestibility and everything, was because after, for example, after this movie came out, the reported cases of multiple personality disorder, now known as dissociative identity disorder, leapt from fewer than 100 to thousands. Okay, there's so many complicated facets to that. I think sometimes people look at it too black and white, where it's like, I do think that there's probably a little bit of social suggestibility there. At the same time, every time that people, for example, now with ADHD, you know, people, there's more representation of PTSD, and I mean of ADHD, and so people go out and get ADHD diagnoses. But it's for this one that we have the hesitance, because it's a little bit more out there. So I think it was like a double whammy always. And of course, a lot of people who go get ADHD or autism diagnoses don't actually have it. So I think it's probably just the same for dissociative identity disorder. I don't think it means everybody who went and got it actually didn't have it. And you know what I mean? Or whatever. But basically, this woman, Shirley Mason, who was Sybil, she basically went to get help from a therapist. And this therapist, psychiatrist called Connie Wilbur, and who had was interested in dissociative identity disorder. Here's the thing about dissociative identity disorder: it's actually one of the oldest, I think, if not one of the, it's the oldest sort of historically sort of recognized disorder. It's very one of the early, I think the earliest recorded case of dissociative identity disorder was way back in the 1500s. So it's pretty old. Obviously 1500s was before even Freud, was way before even psychology and all of our modern understanding. So that's another thing that always, that clue to make, that makes me think dissociative identity disorder is obviously not fake. Okay, I don't think everybody thinks it's totally fake, maybe overdone, but again, there's like a lot of complications to that, and I think there's bias in that for a lot of different reasons. Okay, I have a lot of like thoughts about it, but it's one of the oldest. See, I feel like if it existed before even psychology, like I think there's something to it. I don't think that it's just totally fake, obviously. If not, I wouldn't go down this entire rabbit hole, because I saw this and I was like, there's a lot off here that overlaps with my experience of having dissociation, dealing with trauma as a result of sexual violence, and etc. So I was like, I know there's something here, okay? And I wanted to have something to add to this, even though obviously I didn't deal with dissociative identity disorder, but I did have a pretty intense dissociative experience. So basically, she came in to the psychiatrist wanting to sort of get help from the psychiatrist. And basically, she felt after a while that she wasn't really getting the attention that she needed from this psychiatrist. So basically, she walks in one day and sort of manufactures this other personality called Peggy, in a childish voice, and started acting like she had all these different personalities. And the psychiatrist got hyped up because she thought that this was like something, basically like, she's like, oh, this is like groundbreaking, I'm gonna make this amazing discovery. And this is where it gets complex, okay, is that the psychiatrist then goes into this very completely inappropriate relationship to the patient. She starts to get really sort of, yeah, recording everything, whatever. And this is the things that the patient got really dependent on the psychiatrist for emotional and even financial support. There's no reason this woman should be getting financial support from her psychiatrist. Okay. So it was like a two-sided thing. And she just wanted that sort of attention. I think she probably had more like borderline personality disorder or maybe just really severe neglect trauma, I think was kind of more the case. And basically, she started generating more and more personalities, all of these different personalities. She said, so this is interesting, the article. So basically, what Shirley was doing, she was acceding to a demand that she have this problem. So she really wanted that emotional sort of validation. And then obviously she knew that the psychiatrist would give her that if she had dissociative identity disorder. And Wilbur began injecting Mason regularly with sodium pentothal, which has been used to help people remember traumatic events they had repressed. Under the influence of this very suggestible Mason uncovered her many personalities. Okay. I fully understand why people have that relationship to dissociation because of I know that there's cases like these. I think that what really again though, I think that I came in it with the I came into this issue with the life experience of having gone through surviving sexual violence and then navigating that and seeing a lot of different complications. And so again, I think that gave me a different perspective that I think a lot of people don't have. But I can see, I don't know. There's a lot of complications to it. I still think the issue, and I think that's something like I'm really curious to explore in writing one day. Again, like I said, very first in like Freud basically tried to one of his first papers, he actually tried to publish a paper on sexual abuse and how sexual abuse was actually the cause of his patient's sort of issues. And he got a lot of flack for that. People really didn't like it because they're like, well, these are very esteemed people. Why would they do that? And he essentially retracted the paper and came up with the Oedipus complex and the idea that girls just want attention from their father, or no, when girls envy their fathers, women just want attention from their mothers. So it is a very, very complex issue that I think deserves a lot of nuance. Okay. There's a lot of different sides to it, and that's really stopped people from getting the support that they need. But I think these are really exceptional cases. That's the other thing, is that this isn't every single case, but I think it's all just very complicated. But anyways, so basically reading through the papers, this author says it became obvious that the writer knew that Mason's story was not entirely true, but basically really overhyped up the story. Do you see how this is the thing, is that it all comes down to having a good clinician, and it's not necessarily even about people inventing things, because I think that there's definitely like there's a strong relationship here from the psychiatrists themselves, that they were the one who was really upping the story and wanted to have that. I think there's so much here I want to explore in terms of so many different relationships between mentally ill people and clinicians and psychiatry and everything, where there's so many. I've spoken in another video recently over winter break about how I want to talk about the power dynamic of being a mentally ill person in therapy, right? And this is one of those things where it's so easy for those power dynamics to just get completely just twisted around. And then it's kind of unfair on people that actually do have the experience, because people take cases like these where it was a bad psychiatrist and twist it to the degree that people don't really get the kind of support that they need, medicine, whatever, right? So that's what's really tough. And I always want to keep this in the back of my mind though when I navigate my work, and not be naive about it, because it does happen. This does happen, but I think it comes down, my thinking, my rationale is that I think it still comes down to making sure that clinicians, that we actually do more research, that we have more information about how this works, and that we give clinicians more tools to navigate this kind of potential scenario in therapy. And it's not about just writing it off entirely, because there's still plenty of people who are having this experience, and it doesn't mean that all of them are confabulating. That's what I like fully believe. If not, I obviously, because I'm like, I wasn't confabulating, like, you know what I mean? I was like, I went through the brain loop over and over for years and years and years. Am I faking it? Am I faking it? No. So I feel like that's the thing, is that I started to actually heal once I stopped seeing myself as a confabulator. And then I was like, okay, I can integrate this. Or I was like, I went through such a loop for years of like it was like mental torture. It was like truly the type of mental torture of just like, am I just really, really broken inside and insane and making everything up? And how do I get support? And what if nobody believes me? And the trauma of surviving sexual abuse is awful, and sexual trauma, whatever. And I went through that little loop for years, and it was so harmful to me, and it was so healing for me to actually find something like an answer and everything, a potential answer. And that's why I was like, I think that I was like, this is really necessary, and it's necessary for us to not write this experience off because so many people end up getting impacted. There's so many really obvious and like not false cases of dissociative amnesia and things. Even like this girl who just had a traumatic brain injury, really traumatic experience on her motorbike. It had nothing to do with sexual abuse, and she just couldn't remember her bike because she was so traumatized, right? And like there's just a lot to dissociation that isn't just this. So, but I'm gonna keep talking about this because it's just incredibly interesting. Yeah, so basically the therapist just kept creating drama where there even when there was none. Because she had a contract and a deadline for the book. She was already in the middle of writing a book, so basically it was too late for her to be like, this is fake. I was actually finishing up I was super late to finish my academic integrity thing, and what this is called falsification. See, I learned. Falsification, this is a type of academic dishonesty, so that's really not on the patient. But at one point, Mason tried to set things straight. She wrote a letter. She even wrote a letter to the psychiatrist saying, I don't have multiple personalities. I don't even have two. I'm all of them. I'm lying about all of them. And she dismissed the letter as Mason's attempt to avoid going deeper in her therapy. She was too invested in the patient to let her go. Do you see how it's a sort of there's so much to work through in psychology that this is the thing with when people come in and they have a mental health issue. Obviously we have to hold people accountable. At the same time, they're coming in this really, really deep vulnerability and in a lot of pain, and they're coming to you to guide them through something, and it's really a vulnerable relationship. And it's like, obviously this is not a case of just like people are socially suggestible, but somebody who came in with a deep vulnerability, and that was really the end, that was really, really abused by their psychiatrist. And I think that it's so many of those cases of it's just a very, very complex thing, and it's a very vulnerable relationship between the therapist and the psychiatrist, and or the therapist or whatever. And it's so much more than just people don't, or people are sort of confabulating, but it's also there's people come in, and honestly sometimes people don't really know how to navigate their memories, don't know how to navigate their emotions because they're not experts. That's why they're coming to you. That's what I keep kind of coming back to with this whole thing. It's like that's why people go to experts in the first place, because it's hard, and it's hard to navigate memory and trauma. And trauma is, I mean, memory is complex even to people who study memory. Memory is just a very complex thing. So, nobody, if somebody's coming to you when they're a plumber or something, they're not a neuroscience nor a psychology expert. People in the field should have the answer for them. That's the whole reason to go to pay somebody. So, I think that's the thing, is that it's a big responsibility, and I think people need to have more information, rather than, I think the blame gets kind of thrown back onto these sort of confabulating patients, where it's like, no, but that's the point of going to therapy in the first place, is that you have somebody guide you through. And it can't be that everybody just has some kind of personality disorder. It's like sometimes maybe people are a bit confused. They need to understand. They don't know how memory works. They don't know what's going on with them. There's a lot to basically at play. And I think it's so much more than just people have a personality tendency. People are socially suggestible. People are fantasy prone. There's so much more to it than that. I think it's kind of cheap to write it off as everybody has a certain personality tendency, when there's so much more at play in the situation than that. But she had already basically, so at this point, she had already basically given presentations about the case. She was planning a book. She was very attached to the case and basically couldn't give it up. And she had a very nice piece of psychoanalytic theory. And basically, so as for Mason, she quickly got the message that if she raised questions about the veracity of her multiple personalities, she'd lose her support network, because at this point she was, so I guess I'll read it. I keep trying to explain it, but they just already say it better in writing. So she was already, okay, she was getting financial support. She's going to 14 to 18 hours of therapy a week. The doctor was coming to her house, eating with her, giving her clothes, paying her rent. So it was a really big thing for someone who already was emotionally vulnerable. And would have been a massive thing. I mean, she literally tried. She literally sent a letter saying like, "Hey, this is fake. I don't have multiple personalities." And think how complex that must be for the patient as well. Just awful. I mean, this is honestly an awful case of just abusing an emotionally vulnerable patient. And basically, then the book was really massively popular, and it really popularized dissociative identity disorder. And then after that, basically, people began to recognize Sybil, and she fled her life and moved into a home near Wilbur and lives in the shadows until her death in 1998. Awful. I mean, this is just awful, just medical abuse, actually. I mean, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but this is just an awful case. And I feel like this is the kind of thing that people look at and they think of, this is one of the main sort of anecdotes. I think I've sort of not the main, but this is what a big anecdote that I saw around when I was reading about dissociative disorders and just like, this is the kind of stuff that made people think it's fake. Like this is obviously this is false. Like this is there she didn't have multiple personalities. Also, then because of that, a lot of people went out to try to get like it boosted the disorder. And again, I do think that there's so much. I think people see it in the context of is this fake or real, but I think there's a lot going on at work again because I think that people saw this and maybe people really did they just empathize or understand Shirley. Maybe they had a similar upbringing or understood her emotionally, and people probably did, went in to get a diagnosis. People might have actually genuinely had it. I'm gonna be honest, I think actually people don't even fully understand what dissociative identity disorder is. I think in certain ways it's maybe underdiagnosed and people get misdiagnosed all the time, particularly because I think after that people kind of didn't believe in it. And it's not just feeling like you're like Bob and Joe and stuff. There's a lot of sort of more nuanced elements of how dissociation works that from what I've read, there's just so much more nuance to it in terms of how it actually feels. People don't always start out feeling like they have, I'm Joe and Bob and Fred. Like in this situation, a lot of times I think what I've read is that the naming and the identifying actually happens in a therapeutic context, but before that, people just have these really fragmented experiences of life. They have internal voices. They have stuff like that that people wouldn't recognize from maybe a very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde representation of dissociative identity disorder. So it's a much more complex thing than just that. But who knows that it could be that people really did like sort of recognize some sort of symptom. Then again, all her symptoms were fake. So who knows what they were even seeing themselves in. So that's what's really complex again. But that this happens with pretty much every disorder. Once you get more information though, people do go out and get the disorder. I think it happened with PTSD. I know for a fact it's happening now with ADHD and autism. So I think the general public just isn't really that knowledgeable on disorders. And I think anytime that you give people more information, they start to resonate and they start to go out and get diagnoses and stuff. So I don't think that it's like all of these fantasy prone and socially suggestible people read the book and were like, I'm that now. I think it's so much more than that. That's really, really my big thought process. And yeah, I don't know. It'll be in the book one day that I write if I can get a second supervisor and survive my master's degree program, hopefully. Let's see. But it's literally to me the most interesting thing in the world. I'm actually fascinated by the entire thing so much. All of the different controversies of dissociation are the most interesting thing ever to me. Maybe again because I'm just interested from my own personal life, but I'm gonna open the things that I want to do tomorrow, so they're just here. I want to make tomorrow like a really good productive day. To aka later today actually because it's already 1 a.m. This is my quote unquote final draft. Is it actually a final draft? No, but it just motivates me to call it that. I'm gonna pretend and I'm just gonna keep adding to it. This is all stuff from my proposal that I basically just copy pasted, and yeah. But I'm just gonna start like kind of editing it. A lot of this is just copy pasted stuff so far that I have to just rework. I don't know. I'm kind of nervous to write this, kind of excited. I had made a little video of my dissociative identity disorder theory for myself. and it's unlisted. I'm just gonna list it up in the top for anybody kind of interested. Like it's like in the little cue card. I cue carded it twice, just in case you're curious. That's my first. I have like some general theories that I want to study really bad, and I've just been reflecting on it a lot. And let's see what I can come up with. But I don't think that it's fake. I just think it's misunderstood, and I think that people sensationalized it like a lot. But it is a very old disorder. People have struggled with it since literally, I mean, recorded at least since the 1500s. And I don't think when you actually read about how dissociation works, when you read stuff about like theory of this structural dissociation and stuff, it just doesn't seem that crazy. I don't think it seems that crazy at all. I think the more you actually read about dissociation, because again, when I was obviously had no psychology experience and I was just thinking of dissociative identity disorder like you see it in a movie, it's like, whoa, that's a little crazy. Once I actually read about it more, I'm like, this is actually very nuanced and it makes a lot of sense. And it's not as sort of interesting as it seems on the surface, I guess. It's not as like, cut and dry. There's just a lot of gray areas to it. I don't know how to put it, but yeah, and I think that obviously, I don't know, there's a lot to explore, I guess. The internet, what's going on there. A lot of people with dissociative identity on the internet, and it's hard to know who actually has it and all this stuff. And it's pretty interesting, but I don't know. This is here in the morning. What I'm going to start doing is these are all the texts that I've read so far. Well, there's not all of them. It's a good chunk of them. And I'm basically just going to start moving. Some of them are already, I had already put checkpoints when I moved into my proposal. But I'm just going to go through each and everything and make sure that as much as of it as I can is already present and cited. And I can see, am I missing something? Is there a theme that didn't get included? It's making me very nervous to write this. I've been in a very, very nervous and sort of weird mood and feeling kind of strange because it's a very big thing to do for me right now. Like, I don't know, it's just like very big switch in my life and stuff. And I've just been kind of like, what the heck is happening? Yeah, so I've been trying to give myself space to slow down. At the same time, I just really want to get this over with and never think about it again. So we'll see. That's what I'm gonna do tomorrow. I think it'll be in this video. Good morning. I mentioned that this has been I mentioned in the last video that this has been hard to time manage because sometimes it just gets in my mind and I'm just like, okay, I just need to go and do it and stuff, and then I'll feel better about everything else. And today's one of those moments, because I have other stuff I could be doing, but I just feel like I'll be better if I do this like a bit because I woke up with it on my mind. Last night I was even like, I'll just take a break until the new year, but I just feel like I just want to do a little something because it's just been on my mind. And again, I see this as like my career, my future career, if I can do it. And it matters a lot to me, so I just want to make sure it gets done. Again, this is my final draft document. That's not really my final draft, but just the inspiration that this will be a final draft. And this is all of the different things that I read over the course of my project. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I have a movie on. I'm just gonna I'm gonna set a timer of like an hour and just work on this. And actually until my movie ends. I have a movie on and I feel like that'll just lift something off of me. So yes, let's go do that. Okay, so I've been working on putting all the text in and stuff. And I got to one important text, which is one on something called closed loop stimulation, where they already show that basically doing like generating more sharp wave ripples in key moments helped rats extinguish fear. And I'm going to talk about it. So this is the paper. Closed loop stimulation of the reward system during sharp wave ripple enhances fear extinction. Fear extinction is something you want. Fear extinction is basically when the memories kind of the experience starts to consolidate in a way that the animals would go back to the same place and would not be afraid. Or for us, obviously, like the trauma feeling kind of starts to go away. This paper was one of the first I actually read that made me feel like, okay, you should definitely go down this path. I didn't understand it. Like when I first read it, I had to use a lot of ChatGPT to ask questions because I didn't even fully understand it, which is funny because now it's like, I don't know, obviously I have more of a sense of how this works and stuff. And it's been kind of fun to see my knowledge grow when I go back to the old papers that I read where I was like, I don't understand anything. But Anyways, so we found that sharp wave ripples help mediate fear extinction and that sharp wave ripple triggered closed loop simulation of the reward system, MFB, can enhance extinction of fearful memories. This is the funny thing, is that actually when I was doing this, I was like, this, I think the strength of my paper is that everything already has so much backing to it. It's not like a really out there idea. It's just that nobody has, I haven't seen something specific to like dissociative amnesia and etc. And so I think obviously there's not necessarily also this specific like computational model built, but everything is like crazy solidly backed up. So I think that's really, really a strong point. And I basically just want to go in and contextualize it within the context of this this controversy and just be like, you know, there's this controversy, but there's already a lot of information about this basically. Um, I probably won't say it in those exact, that exact kind of phrasing, but that's kind of what I want to do because I'm just like, there's already so much good information about dissociative amnesia, fear extinction, etc. When the memories, when the neuromodulators are up, you can't remember anything. So I think that's a pretty solid, like, you know, thing for dissociative amnesia. So that's why I feel pretty good about this as long as I can. It's just the computational model that scares me because I've not done that before. But obviously, I'm just gonna do my best and then see if my supervisor can give me a little bit of advice. But anyways, but going back to this, I've also been. This has been probably one of my most passionate years. Like I've been so. The minute I started actually having information, I was like, all of this knowledge that I gained from my traumatic experience, I was like, I just want it in a form, and it's been so healing and stuff to put all of it into like useful format. And I've been imagining this little therapy kind of thing, basically for dissociative, like recovered memory, dissociation, because there's not much specific to dissociation. And at first, I thought that because this is a medication option that already exists, it's probably really cheap. That basically lowers arousal or lowers acetylcholine. I thought maybe that would be a good option, like with testing and with everything, to see like maybe that's a good option for helping people who have dissociative amnesia. But I basically just went and asked some more questions because I keep forgetting exactly how it works. Closed loop simulation, basically, I need to read this paper again, but it's like in key moments. I think what they did is maybe they had the rats, they find key moments basically where it would be appropriate to stimulate more sharp wave ripples. And yeah, and then I was thinking, this is like, again, this is that have no, like, this is something I need to do a lot of research for. This will probably be a PhD thing that I do, like when I go to a PhD program. But I've just been kind of confused on like where do I go with my entire career. I've been a little bit like confused because I have a lot of information on a really niche thing. The two options, I was just thinking that the thing is that closed loop simulation is still, I think, in the works. Like it's still, people are still researching it. But I keep like, one thing I keep going back and forth on is that scopolamine, I'm like, I keep like thinking of all the different risks and then like when do you take it and like stuff like that. Like what would be the best time to even take it? Would it be in therapy maybe? And then it's not as precise, right? So then you run the risk of other things that are like other side effects. But it would be so cool to have this in therapy. And then I feel like just processing from my experience having dissociative experiences and recovered memory and stuff, I feel like if you do a little bit and you process a little bit, your brain naturally starts to have the capacity to actually process other things. So it would be kind of cool because then it's like, okay, you do a little bit of this in therapy, talking through your experience, and then you go home and maybe things start to come up in your, when you're sleeping or like, when you're at home, whatever, then you have all this information about how to navigate that at home. So again, like all of my crazy projects that are like, I guess seemingly ambitious on the surface, but it's just because I feel like I have so much personal information on this theme that it's like it naturally ends up being like that because I'm like, I just genuinely, I have so much information on navigating this experience that I just want to translate it into things that are useful. And I think that that's like kind of the reason I keep jumping into ambitious projects is because I don't have experience on paper, but I have life experience, and my life experience was really extensive and really difficult, and it's experience that I'm always kind of still navigating like at home in my own life and stuff. So I keep learning. And so I feel like that's why I keep getting into these ambitious spaces because I'm like, I have by now like 6 years, six, almost 7 years of thorough experience and dissociation and everything. So it's like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I naturally want to start translating 7 years worth of extensive experience into this, but it's like, I don't on paper have experience. So that's why it's like, okay, there's kind of a mismatch between what I want to do and what it seems like I should be doing and then also what I have the actual technical experience for. So that's why I keep being in kind of like a weird situation. So yeah, if only you could get a degree for 7 years of experience having dissociative disorder or PTSD, then I'd be in a different position. But unfortunately, I'm not. But yeah, I just thought that'd be kind of cool of like close, like doing this in therapy and then this. But I don't know, maybe this is like maybe there is something you can do with this. I was also thinking that because this is the thing is that when people start getting chronically stressed, chronic like PTSD stuff, this is in rat models, it showed that they started getting depleted in choline because they were just overproducing acetylcholine so much. So then they were depleted in choline but overproducing acetylcholine to the point that the it was not really able to deplete to replenish. And I thought it'd be cool to do like a medication like this also. So I just have a lot of different ideas that I'm thinking about, like in terms of what I'm reading and stuff. And all of these are good options that hopefully I'll explore either in a PhD setting or like over my career, like, after my PhD, whatever. But it sucks because I'm in a spot where like there's not enough stuff made, where there's not enough resources, there's not enough data, there's not enough information. And I have a lot of extensive personal life experience and I have a lot of passion for this. So I keep wanting to do these things that are like really big, but it's like, well, they're you know what I mean? It's like it's more of a process. So yeah, but let's see how this goes and then maybe that'll open up some opportunities for me to get in places where I can actually explore some of these ideas. I don't know. Okay, this is just kind of funny, like it's not that serious, but my feet got really cold and I went to put on some socks and I was like, let me wear the new socks my dad got me for Christmas and it's these socks. And I just thought it was kind of funny because it kind of matches the cover of The Body Keeps the Score. Like I actually think this is from the same artist probably, and I just thought it was kind of funny for me to wear these while I'm doing this like trauma project. Anyways, my dad didn't even know that. That wasn't intentional, but kind of funny. This is like the book, the trauma book. Okay, so there's some elements that I'm missing here, and it's not that they're missing per se. It's that I want to fine tune them and I want to know exactly what I need to have. So then when I speak to my supervisor, I can be really clear. And I don't want it to feel discombobulated. I want things to connect in a way that makes sense and that have like a few key things that I'm looking at versus just doing like a jumble of stuff. So I'm going to start clipping in things that I kind of feel like I haven't really fully kind of mastered in my model. One of those things is fragmentation. Obviously, it's not, I don't think I'm going to master the entirety of fragmentation because, no, it's like a really controversial thing and like there's a lot to it. But I have like a touch of something that I'm trying to touch on, but I don't feel like haven't wrapped my head fully around like how I think what I'm trying to do. It just needs to be a small piece. It doesn't need to be the whole thing, essentially. Okay, so I just want to talk through some of the stuff that I'm seeing here. So the creation of hippocampal, okay. So hippocampal component is essential to accurate reconstruction of episodic memory. Data suggests that within physiological limit, this is an old paper too. So I need to work off from this, but this was just like information. Within physiological limits, stress enhances the function of the amygdala and consequently strengthens those aspects of explicit memory subserved by the structure. So that's pretty one of the main things that I'm kind of trying to show because I'm looking at synaptic tagging, which is basically like the memories, certain memories are told to like, okay, this is the more important thing, essentially. It's felt really nice to just take something really seriously. Kind of funny, but I feel like caring this much about something actually feels really good and not seeing. I feel like it's nice to actually look at my work and be like, oh, this is actually something that I could seriously do versus like this is just another assignment for me to like half-ass and get through, like okay, it doesn't really need much of anything. Sometimes it's stressful, but it feels really, really good, I think, to just take something seriously and actually have like this is the thing in my life that I'm proudest of. Like I feel so proud actually when I look at this and when I look at the paper that I'm writing, I just feel like, wow, I can't believe I learned all of this. And like also just the seriousness that I feel like I just took this really seriously and it feels good to see it actually becoming like a serious thing. Feels really nice. Like this is so cool and big and it is such a cool testament to like what I went through and stuff. And yeah, I really, really wanted this to just be like a real thing, not a school project, but like an actual paper that I was going to publish. Made me feel happy. I don't know. And just really getting immersed in like what does it take to actually write a good paper? What's everybody else doing? And like just kind of reading around papers and being like, what made this a good paper? And or at least it doesn't have to be a good paper, but what made it, publishable and all this stuff. And I feel like I was just trying to learn that along the way and emulate a lot. And it feels cool to kind of see, obviously this is still my rough draft. Like I'm not writing it fully in like the best language and some things are just copy pasted in so far, but this looks like a real paper and that's really cool. And just looking at this, I'm like, whoa, all of this is stuff that I read. And then also I took the extra time to put all of my notes into a document and like have them for me for later and stuff. And that was really time consuming and annoying. But I'm looking at it now and just being like, thank God. Like, this is like, I don't have to read the papers 1,000 times. Like, everything I need is here. And like, it just felt really good to take this seriously and like actually put my time and effort into it. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like that made me feel empty. I feel like, again, like in your early 20s, I feel like a lot of stuff isn't really that serious. Like, it's like, it's just everything's for practice, everything's for play, everything's just to learn. And like, it's kind of rare that you actually do something that's like really, like, you really should take this seriously kind of thing. Where I feel like, it actually feels good. Like, I feel purposeful. And I think that I really wanted like a deep sense of purpose, I guess, because it makes me feel like I know myself. And I just feel like my sense of self, like my self-esteem has improved so much doing this. Like, I feel really good about myself. I think just making an impact. I don't know. I haven't made one yet, but like hopefully I will. And I just think making an impact feels really good in theory and feeling like my life is for something. That's what I don't like about school sometimes that I feel like I ended up gravitating towards this more is like you're kind of just turning stuff in for somebody to read and throw away and it's really not like, you know what I mean? It's like great. Somebody gave me another grade for something that doesn't it's just going to be like trash and it's just for me to learn. And it's good cuz it's for you to learn, but I wish sometimes at school and learning felt more purposeful where I'm like, "Oh, I actually use my time for something" versus like, "Okay, great, now you know that I'm a good student," you know? Or like now I can move to the next level, but it's like, okay, so you're just spending so much time moving to the next level where like I want to do something though. I want to actually like make a difference and like actually add to the world and what I'm up to. I feel like that's what actually makes stuff engaging where like sometimes school growing up I'm like it's not that engaging because you're just doing like I think I never liked busy work like growing up in school. I think a lot of times people have this perception of people with ADHD because I do technically have ADHD. I've just found ways to cope and I feel like my ADHD pops up in other ways in like my outside world, not in like it does pop up in my okay, well, anyways, I think that I just feel like growing up, I feel like people really treat people with ADHD like I think like they're not that serious and like they're just sort of incompetent and sort of all these different things that like they can't be like as serious as neurotypical people or engage with the world and like they're not as professional and all these little things that I think people think about people with ADHD. I'm like, to be honest, the reason that I didn't like, for example, I l- I was a really good student in elementary school. I started to fall off as I got older. And then through middle school, I was not good. Like people had to call my parents all the time and be like, "Hey, she hasn't turned her assignment in. It's very late." And I didn't want to be that, but that's what I was in middle school. Even though I wanted like, I obviously in high school, I really locked in and like I focused, I did what I had to do to cope. Doesn't mean my ADHD wasn't still there, but I did what I had to do, right? But I think people really misunderstand people with ADHD so much. And I'm like, the reason that I didn't like school in middle school is I'm like, I don't like sitting around and doing busy work. I don't think anybody with ADHD likes doing busy work. I don't like sitting here and being like, my time is wasted and for nothing. So I'm going to go find some avenue in my mind that is significantly more purposeful or interesting or important. Or why am I sitting around here doing nothing, doing busy work for what? And I think that a lot of times we aren't as motivated by like okay, now my teacher likes me. Obviously I want my teachers to like me, but I'm like, okay, I don't know, like I just feel like it doesn't sometimes I feel like people have that conception of people with ADHD where I'm like, I want to do something really serious. Like I want to do something that actually feels worth my time and that I go in and I feel a strong sense of purpose every day. I know why I'm doing this. Like I know why, like what's the importance of this. And I think that's a lot of neurotypical people, I mean neurodivergent people, I'm sure, where it's like so much of like the neurotypical work world is just like, just do something else so I can approve of you, and just do something else so that you can show me that you did it. Where it's like, I could just go do it though. I could just go do something important and useful. Why am I sitting around doing empty work when I could be actually doing something that's actually gonna do something, you know? And I think that that's why people go off, and I'm like, okay, like in middle school, I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and doodle. I wanted to be like an animator, which is obviously so far off from where I am. But I really wanted to be like an artist in middle school, right? So I would spend my time doing my drawings in class. I would just be drawing and drawing, and like I improved my drawing a lot, right? Where it's like, okay, that seems significantly more purposeful than whatever thing that I'm being told and force fed that I need to be caring about. Where it's like, I don't care though. And that, of course, there's a balance because I should care. I should care about learning math and stuff, right? But I think that engaging people with who are neurodivergent means it should like getting them involved in things that actually feel purposeful. Where the minute something starts to feel like this is like a waste of my time, I start checking out. Where it's like I want to go to the more important thing that needs to be done. But I feel like so many times the neurotypical world is just about doing things like routinely and just like, okay, just like step by step by step, where it's like, I hate that. That's not how my brain works. And obviously I'm so incredibly competent. This is like the opposite of what you would think someone with ADHD would do, right? Well, to be honest, like I haven't been as locked in on my classes, right? Because I want to do this. I don't want to sit there and prove to people that I can do psychology where I'm already doing it. But the neurotypical world forces us to go through the motions of like, prove it to me, do another example one, do another this, do another that. I don't want to because I'm already doing it, but I have to do school to get a master's degree. So you see, this doesn't look on the surface like an ADHD thing, right? Look at this highly detailed, like, an organized sort of document. Look at the fact that I spent 8, 9 months on this, all this stuff, right? You look at this and be like, well, someone with ADHD would do this. If you look at my side stuff, you'll see like where this is coming from. That doesn't mean I'm flopping, but I'm like, this is the most important thing in my life. Like, I want to spend all my time on this. I don't want to spend my time doing stuff that is, first of all, nobody's going to ever see it. Nothing is ever going to be done with it. Like, it's just another example job, like another example work where I'm already doing real work and I want to do real work, And I feel like I actually thrived in the work world more than I thrive in the school world because I'm like, the work world is like real. Like you're actually doing real stuff. Or sometimes the school world just feels like school world, the school world. It doesn't feel like the real world. I want responsibility. I want things to have purpose. And I want to be like, okay, my hard work paid off for something that people are actually going to use versus just sitting there and telling you that I can do something that I already know that I can do anyways. That's the thing that really gets me about school. And I don't think it's about, oh, ignore school, but it's about how do you facilitate that more in school sometimes where it's like, okay, you know what I'm saying? It's just, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my mentality. And yeah, this doesn't seem like an ADHD thing, but it's like obviously I have it, and like it's because I never in my life, like obviously I force myself to, and I cope and I make coping mechanisms so that I can force myself to do those busy work things that need to be done so that you can show that you can do stuff that you already can't do anyways. But it's like, you know what I mean? I hated that. I hated that my whole life. I spent so much time on the side, in high school. I did good, but I was like, I'm just sitting around writing in my notebooks and writing and writing and reading under the desk and doing all the stuff that I'm like, I love to learn, but I don't always like, I don't like the school structure all the time. I do actually. I like going to class and stuff, but it's just sometimes I'm like, if something is significantly more purposeful to me, I just want to like break off and go do that. I don't want to sit there and do stuff that's like, okay, for what, you know? I think that's why I've noticed another trend in people with ADHD. Every person that I know with ADHD is like this. They want to start their own thing. Like they always have creative ideas. Like they want to start a business. They want to start. My dad, he's not diagnosed, but it definitely runs in my family. My sister and I both have it. And he grew up with similar issues to me, but he's a very, very, very smart person. Like he's got insane memory for like everything. And he's always got his own ideas for stuff. Like he's a really good ideas person. He has his own nonprofit and he started different things throughout our time, like, you know, during our childhood. And when I was really young, like I feel like actually ADHD people do amazing in leadership positions for that reason. I feel like the power combo is like ADHD person and then like neuro with somebody who's like assisting them who is neurotypical, because I just feel like people with ADHD love to start their own thing. They want to I feel like because it feels purposeful and it feels creative and it feels like a I don't know. See, obviously I wanted to start my thing. I was like I want to do research. I have my own ideas. I want to do my own stuff where we have so many good ideas. ADHD people are such good idea people and they're so good at yeah. I think it took actually for me, I think this was like the most enjoyable thing in my life. I never really felt that like I feel like even though I struggle with ADHD, I struggled in many other areas of school and stuff. This did not feel like a struggle to me. Like it was like I want to do this. I want to do this every day. I enjoy it. Like I'll do it. Like it didn't feel like the big stressor that everything else was. Where I was like, I just okay. Like this is just it now. Like we're doing this. Maybe that's just a me thing too, because this was just like a passion for me and all this stuff. But wait, really quick, I think I'm gonna do a long discussion section where I'm gonna discuss first of all the results of the actual neural network, the computation model I build. But I have a lot of different things I think would be really interesting to talk about in my discussion section. Will they all make it in there? I don't know, but I want to cover some more stuff that I think like looking at it through this framework. This kind of the theme of my discussion section. Looking at this framework, how can we start to make a more cohesive, create a more cohesive understanding of what's happening in dissociative disorders? For example, amnesic leakage, where basically people start to like, oh, a little piece of something slipped into their amnesic state. This could just be sharp wave ripples as well, like something consolidating. And then it might just be too arousing still, maybe. I don't know. You know, stuff like that where I don't know, that's not like 100%, but you know, I just want to go into some of these other things and be like, all of these things fit well within this framework. If we look at all of these different little things that are happening, they really match well with this idea. And I think it would be a good like cohesive framework for dissociative amnesia. And maybe dissociative disorders, but I don't want to go too outside of my scope. But I probably will go into some elements of dissociative disorders of like future research, probably gonna be like, you know, chronic stress. I already have some section on this. I want to talk about pattern separation and pattern this I mean this is what I talked about in my dissociative identity video that I unlisted and put it up in the top, but pattern separation and parts could be like an interesting future thing. And I think just like exploring this mechanism further within a dissociation context, it's not going to answer all the questions, but I think it can answer a lot. You know, like what about when arousal for this one, it's like what about when arousal is so high that no recurrent excitation can happen at all over a long period of time, basically? Or it never gets to that medium point where it actually it never starts to pattern completion like doesn't occur as often, I guess. Not enough pattern completion, I guess. Would be an interesting one in the future. That's my dissociative identity disorder theory, that I think it's just the patterns are so spread out that like they're not even connected to any of the inner patterns because the arousal is so high across the board that you never get to that point where it's like, oh, this is all me and we're all one person and this is all connecting to all the other information I have inside my framework. It's just a bunch of separated patterns that are just encoding all the time without consolidating. So yeah, that's like an idea. But I was talking about ADHD. Basically, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that's I think we should honor that more in kids also. Everybody with ADHD. I think like, it's not that we're unprofessional and stuff. I think we're ideas people. And we want purpose driven activities. That's why everybody who has literally everybody I know with ADHD wants to start their own thing. They're very inspired people. It's just I'm getting so many visions of my future. As long as I can pass my master's program, which I hopefully will. The moment I'm passing, I'm not excelling, but I'm passing. Who knows with this next paper if I'll pass or not, because I was so busy doing my project that I didn't focus on it as much as I could. But I just saw this as like the most important thing that I needed to do right now, because if not, I would just be circling in random degrees over and over again until I was able to, you know what I mean? I was like, this is my one chance right now, because I have the opportunity to get myself so much further ahead than I could if I just kept circling around like, okay, now another psychology thing, now another under somebody else again and under somebody else again. And like, you know what I mean? It's like, this is like a cool thing. And like, I needed to go for it. But it's like kind of exciting because it makes me feel so excited. I mentioned this one of my first videos, to see people with like these really, really extensive, like they keep citing themselves and they have their own body of work. And I just am excited because I'm like, I see it for me. As long as I could pass my master's, which I will. But I just get nervous sometimes, like, okay, I need to lock in on certain stuff. But I want to have my own body of work. You see, it's like I just want to do my own stuff, and I just want to see my ideas like fleshed out in the world. Everybody wants that to a degree. I just think it's like a super strong ADHD craving thing of like, I want my thing. And they want to make stuff. Everybody with ADHD wants to make something, like put something out into the world, create something, I feel. Maybe not everybody, but everybody I know with ADHD. Like that's the most satisfying thing I think with ADHD, just having like a creative vision and then seeing it like come to life is like the desire. It doesn't always happen because ADHD is hard, but yeah. Where was I in this? Where do I talk about this? I think I'm going to talk about this in this section. Where is it? Up here. But I just feel like as I got older, I just started to honor that. And I was like, that's not even a bad thing. I just feel like you develop such low self-esteem as with ADHD. If you develop good self-esteem with ADHD, you're flying. Like if you can develop self-trust, good self-esteem, like you're ahead of the crowd essentially, because it can be a superpower truly. But the neurotypical world gives us low self-esteem and then we freeze and we like, you know what I mean? We get that executive dysfunction feeling that I'm feeling right now in school sometimes of like, oh my God, I suck. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. I'm considering whether to put this in the discussion section or in my actual up here. I think this would be so cool in my discussion section, talking about this woman. I think that's where we're gonna do like cohesive framework thing. We're gonna reference this text a lot, and we're gonna talk about how memories come back. I think is like kind of a theme. Let's do like some themes. I feel like the way that I built self-esteem with ADHD was I'm gonna make a full-fledged video on this, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but I think you have to take some smaller leaps, and you have to commit to having a few of your smaller projects actually work out for you to the end. And then you start seeing yourself as like, okay, I actually can complete things. Because I think that ADHD people, sometimes we tend to leap towards the biggest thing, where actually, and this is a very big thing, right? It's like, whoa, amazing. But I didn't just leap for this first. Like I took a lot of smaller jumps that built, and then I developed self-esteem of like, I can see things through. Where there was a lot of other things that I finished first, and then I was like, okay, I can do this. Where instead of jumping towards like the biggest thing, and then you start to see, this is the thing, is that I think a lot of times we get in this loop with our ADHD behaviors where we start to see ourselves as people who cannot see things through, and you build an identity of somebody who can't see things through because you're like, well, I just disappoint myself, I just do this. The reality is that like there's a lot of ways where you can disappoint yourself. Disappointing yourself happens. It doesn't mean you're bad, but it means you have to become I just started to learn over time, like, how are ways that I accidentally develop low self-esteem with my ADHD, where it's like jumping into too many things, opening too many boxes, starting habits that I can't finish based on everything that I have, I stopped doing those things because I started to value, how do I build better self-esteem with my ADHD? And it came down to minimizing the things I was doing and committing to projects that I could see through to the end and pushing myself to finish them, knowing that if I finished them, I would start to see myself that way. Where I was like, okay, it was smaller things like, okay, I made my own 75 hard. 75 hard is an online thing where you do 75 days of like habit building, of certain habits. This is a thing. This is like the key. The thing is, you have to start warping it to yourself. Okay, I'm not gonna go too far into it because I really want to make a full video on this. But I was like, okay, if I try to do 75 hard as it is, I will disappoint myself because it's not connected to me. It's not aligned with me. It's not purposeful to me. I'm just going to do it because I think I need to do it exactly like this to be a disciplined person. I already talked about this in another video. I'll link up here. That was before I started my project. That was like my first inkling of like, okay, how do I navigate my life as somebody with ADHD and still have the personality I want to, which is productive, right? I was like, I need to basically go this, like, rework things, right? And I was like, I need to basically, I did 75 hard, but I made it things that I actually enjoyed. I stopped seeing things I enjoyed as bad. Okay, and I was like, okay, let me make this all things that are productive, but that I would enjoy and that are a good workload for me. I did that for 75 days, and I was like, whoa, I finished that. Like, I actually committed because I made it enjoyable but productive, and I finished it. And that means that I can finish things and see things through to the end. Let myself make like a slip up here and there because I think ADHD makes you perfectionist, and you think, oh my God, I missed it for a day. I have to start over. I didn't start over. I just kept going until I finished 75 days because I was like, finishing is more important. Okay. I'm gonna make a full-blown video on this. Finishing is the important part. You have to learn to finish things. Even if they're not perfect, you have to finish them. Okay. So I did the 75 days. Then I finished my undergraduate thesis. I was unfinished because of mental health and all the stuff that I was dealing with in university. And it was related to this. So I was like, I finished it. Did it matter to anybody? Did I publish it? No, but I did it on my own and I did finish it. I was like, okay, I can finish a big project and a paper on my own. Then I embarked on this adventure. And I made smaller goals, finished 60 texts. And I was like, whoa, I read 60 research articles. That's insane. Okay, so you just go building that self-esteem. And in the meantime, I cut out the things that would stop me from finishing the thing that I actually cared about. I was like, if I'm not gonna, like, I cut the gym. And I know people try to sell you this thing. It's like, if you're not doing every habit under the sun in a balanced way, you are unproductive and all this stuff. I was like, I will drop the gym. I know the gym is important, but it's more important that I build self-esteem of I am a productive person with ADHD versus like I am a disappointment and a failure who can't finish things. I was like, finishing is the important part. You just have to learn to become that. And yeah, and then I committed to this project and it's here. And now I'm gonna turn the camera off because I'm like, this needs to finish. Look, I'm so close to finished. But I will finish because I'm building that personality of like finishing is the most important thing to me. Is it gonna be finished perfectly? No. But it's gonna be done because it needs to be done because that's who I am now. I've finished up, I'll make a full-blown video on it when I'm done with this project because it's literally the thing that changed my mentality in my life. You guys want to know something else? Think that I can connect this to something else, something very interesting. Let me show you. I'm sorry. I'm actually getting kind of shaken. Like, this paper is actually getting like kind of insane. And it's like, whoa, this is happening. This is happening. There's something else that I think we could add here. I'm just going to briefly mention it. Oh my God. Sorry, when I was walking around, I actually got kind of shook over this. I was just like, what? I think I could talk about how in the future, you could also look at non-pathological dissociation through this lens. Like, basically, non-pathological dissociation could just be strong, like high arousal, like encoding phases, but where everything actually gets consolidated and consolidation isn't impacted. So for example, dissociative absorption could just be like intense encoding phases, intense arousal phases that are not traumatic, and thus they just consolidate fine. But that tendency could make it harder or could make you more likely to develop that type of stuck high arousal phase in the case of trauma. And I think that that would be a good future framework for non-pathological dissociation. Because also it makes sense because you're also like you're in a very immersive, like very immersed state where patterns aren't necessarily what's the word? Being completed. So that could facilitate that sort of out of body experience, but then later it just goes down. Whoa! That's crazy. Oh my gosh. That's actually insane. I'm really feeling like this is gonna be good for me. I got a really good feeling after I finished writing that. I was like, whoa. I think I did it. I feel like kind of shook. This is actually it's just because I feel like I do it. I got this one thing which is already very backed, but then I'm like, it's like my brain just keeps going and like radiating out and just being like, whoa, this connects to so many other things within the realm of dissociation that answers so many questions about dissociation just in general and makes so many different like cases for so many different types of dissociative disorders. I'm actually feeling like really like spiritually transformed right now. I know it sounds kind of silly, but it's like, whoa, I really did that in theory. It just answers so many questions when you look at it like that. You'd have to study that obviously. But like, I mean, doesn't that make so much sense? Because I was thinking about how if you can't connect the pattern that you're sort of encoding to anything, like if you can't connect it to anything about your deeper self, you must just feel so outside of yourself because you're like, this is something completely not me. Like this is something completely outside of me, has nothing to do with anything that I have stored. It's just like a whole different thing. You get me? I don't know if that's perfectly exactly how it is, but that's how I imagined it. And then so that would make sense for things like I'm not going to write everything, but that would make sense for things like possession trance experiences. That's where I started this whole journey, was talking about possession trance disorder. So it's funny to get back here and just be like, whoa, like the journey that I took to here is insane. This whole thing has just been insane. And there's a connection here that I can't make yet, but it's something to do with the amygdala and stuff that I'm going to read more about fear extinction, I think, because I think that's missing. I'm shaking. I don't know. I just really feel like I'm like, whoa, I did so much with this, actually. I don't want to be cocky and think that I'm like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's just like, whoa, like this is just a whole new framework for looking at everything dissociation that was already kind of there, just wasn't integrated into one thing. And it's like, whoa, like everything makes sense to me now when I look at this. I was like, dissociative identity disorder started to make sense to me. Non-pathological dissociation makes sense. Everything makes sense. And it's like, whoa, that's insane. Like, I'm actually shaken. Because I was doing this whole thing and I was like, what does this have to do with non-pathological dissociation? Like, I was just thinking over the course, not that extensively, but it was just popping to mind. Like, where's that? And then it's like, it's this. I was like, whoa. That happened today when I was walking. I was like, that's what it is. It's just not traumatic. So everything just consolidates just fine at the end. Okay, obviously I'm going to keep going through this. But I kind of want to take, like, I don't know if I want to make the whole rest of the video me putting stuff in. I don't know. Where do I want to take this video? I'm just really shaken. Like, I just feel transformed as a human being right now. I don't know. I just feel really different. And I just feel cleaner. I don't know, like cleaner, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's crazy. Yesterday I was thinking how this whole thing has felt like this crazy exorcism. Like this entire freaking project has felt like an exorcism of some kind. Like it's just like I feel freaking possessed and I'm like, I need to get this out. And it's like I'm starting to feel like the exorcism is working. The demon is leaving my body and it's all on this paper. It's been crazy. Like, what is this that I've done? What have I done? Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. All I need now is the freaking this. I just need to get it done and do it. Obviously I still have lots of like text to add here. And I still have lots of text to add that are just like lingering on my iPad, on my everything. I have a lot to add still, but I might end the video here just because I know it's getting a bit long at this point, and I don't know if it'll be that exciting to just keep talking about the stuff I'm moving over. I'd rather just, I might as well just make as much content out of this as I can now, because I'll soon it's gonna be done, and then what will I have to make content of on my YouTube page? My life? Nothing. Just kidding. So I might as well just squeeze as much. I'm like, I'll just squeeze as much of this out of this as I can while I'm here, because this is like probably the biggest thing I've ever done in my life thus far. I'm only 24, but this is really big. So, and it's been like a big personal journey, spiritual journey, everything. So it's kind of like that's really coming to a close now. And that's really exciting. So I might as well get all the information I can. And I like to watch these back and just remember different points. Like I was watching one that was like halfway through like a message for the girlies or something when I'd only read 30 texts. And it was the first time I looked at the word acetylcholine and I was like, acetylcholine. I don't know, like I was watching it back and I was like, I didn't even know how to pronounce it, and now I'm writing a whole paper about it. It was just kind of funny. And then also just almost like the foreshadowing, because I didn't know what it was. I was just reading and I didn't think it was gonna like really play that much of a part. And I was looking at it like, girl, you don't even know. You have no idea what's coming. Like you're about to really write a whole paper on this and stuff. And so these are actually just really fun for me to watch back and just look at my own memories. So that's why I'm making them, because it's just like my personal journey. And it's just really fun for me to see my growth. And I was also, even the other day, I was watching the oldest videos on my page. Like I was watching the ones I was doing before I started this. And I was like, I have changed so drastically this year in terms of my energy, my confidence in front of a camera, my confidence in general. Like the way I carry myself, I just seem less depressed. Like I didn't feel depressed back then, but I felt heavy and traumatized and just like difficult and all these different things. And I just like look back at those. I'm like, I wanted to do this. I just didn't know how to do it yet. I just feel like my energy has changed so drastically, and my what's going on in like the outside of my life changed so much. And it's really fun to watch these back and just like I don't notice sometimes how much I've changed, but I just see those videos. I was like, I've seemed so shy and heavy feeling and like all this stuff, and now it's like, whoa, I feel so much lighter. So yeah, I guess I'll just squeeze as much content as I can out of these videos, just out of like, it's like, wow, my baby is growing up. My paper is the baby. It's like my baby is about to turn 18, and leave the house. So I have to spend as much quality time with my baby as I can while it's here. So, okay, that has been it for this video. We covered a lot. I still don't have a second supervisor. Hopefully that'll trickle in the next week or two, not just because it would be nice, but also because I genuinely need to put that down in my form. And it's really frustrating to be like, oh, I'm so ahead on my project, but it's like I'm still sitting here worrying about this deadline, which is this form and everything. So yeah, hopefully that'll trickle in soon. Again, it's hard to get across to people sometimes where I'm like, I don't need you to sit there and hash this whole thing out with me. Like I'm literally writing like an entire paper. Like I need barely anything from, obviously my computational modeling person, I do need like a lot. Not a lot, but I need like, you know what I mean? Like that's my weak point. But like I just need someone in like the psychology department. I'm like, I promise you, I don't like your workload is so busy, whatever. I promise you, all I need you to do is be on my form and read my paper. Like that's all I need you to do. Obviously, I'll get more support. I'm not trying to say like my thing is perfect. I obviously still need plenty. But like I'm gonna have 2 supervisors. Some people just have 1, so it's like I don't need like, you know what I mean. So, but it's like you can't say that because then people are like, well, I mean that would just be weird of me to say that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I have to just be like everyone's busy. It's like I literally just need you to read this and say that you read it. That's all you need to do. Not even this. Just my final paper from Empirical Projects. That's all you need to do. I just need a name down on my form. I swear to you, but. Unfortunately, I can't say it like that. I try to say it in polite terms, but I think people don't believe me. Just kidding. But anyways, all right. Yeah, I guess off to do the rest of my day. I still need to work hard on school and stuff right now because I'm a little behind for final season, and I don't want to be behind forever. I've been behind for years. At least it feels like it. I'm like ahead and behind at the same time constantly, where I'm like, this is putting me so ahead in life, and yet I'm constantly feeling behind on my assignments. So yeah. All right, bye.